Hi, today we're going to talk about Amendments 11 through 27, which is all of the amendments to the Constitution that are not part of the Bill of Rights. And so these amendments have been added over the last, we've been a country for almost 250 years. There really haven't been very many because making amendments is purposefully difficult. Okay, so Amendment number 11 said that it's impossible for U.S. courts or federal courts to hear lawsuits that are against a state. Those are things that would be held in a state court. Amendment 12 explains the procedures for electing a president. So originally in the Constitution, they had planned that whoever got the most votes would become the president of the United States, and whoever got the second most votes would be the vice president of the United States. But they very quickly realized that that's just not very practical. Think about that. In the last election, that would mean that Joe Biden would become president and Donald Trump would become his vice president. That's just not going to work. And so the 12th Amendment happens pretty early and creates a system where the president and the vice president run together on one ticket. So if we vote for Donald Trump, we vote for Mike Pence with him. If we vote for Joe Biden, we vote for Kamala Harris with him. Right? They go together as a package deal. The 13th Amendment, this doesn't happen until after the Civil War, abolishes slavery in the United States, with the exception of if it's as a punishment for a crime. Amendment 14 comes also quickly after the Civil War, says that everyone who is born in the United States is automatically a citizen, and they automatically get the equal protection of the laws. So all of those formerly enslaved people who are now free after the Civil War have become citizens of the United States. Amendment 15, also right after the Civil War, gives the right to vote to formerly enslaved men, says that the right to vote cannot be prevented based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude. So you can't say that someone can't vote based on what race they are, what color they are, or the fact that they used to be a slave. And so this law gives voting rights to the formerly enslaved men. Amendment 16, everybody's favorite thing, taxes, right? In the 16th Amendment, in the early 1900s, gave Congress the power to create an income tax, that they could tax people based on how much money they made each year. That was something new. The 17th Amendment. So at the beginning of the Constitution, the Founding Fathers had created that the senators would be appointed by state governments. But in the 17th Amendment, they make a change and they make the senators able to be elected directly by the people of the United States. And so we now get to choose our senators every 6 years. The 18th Amendment started a time period called Prohibition. In Prohibition, alcohol was illegal. And so the Constitution was changed to reflect the fact that people were not allowed to distribute, drink alcohol during this time period. Amendment number 19, exactly 100 years ago, women got the right to vote. So in the 19th Amendment, it says that you cannot be prevented from voting based on your sex. The 20th Amendment set the inauguration dates and the beginning of the term for Congress. So the new presidential inauguration is always on January 20th. The start of the new term of Congress is on January 3rd. And so that has been established so that it just flows smoothly from year to year. The 21st Amendment, they decided that having alcohol be illegal was a bad thing. And so they end prohibition. They say alcohol is now legal again. So that didn't last very long. And it's the only constitutional amendment that takes away another amendment. The 22nd Amendment, after this man, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, was president and had been elected 4 times, people realized that it would be possible for the executive branch to gain a lot of power by being elected over and over and over. And so they decided that there needs to be term limits for a president. And they set the term limits for a president at only 2 terms. So FDR is our only president who has ever served more than 2 terms, and no president can ever serve longer than that again. When Washington, D.C. was created as the capital of our country, they purposely created it so that it was not in any one state. But because of that, it meant that the people who live in Washington, D.C. didn't have any real say in the government. And so Amendment 23 gave people who lived in Washington, D.C. presidential electors so that they would be able to have a say in who is going to be the president of the United States. So after the Civil War, formerly enslaved people had gained the right to vote. But some states didn't feel like that was the right thing, and so they tried to find loopholes to make it difficult for for enslaved people to vote in their states. And one of those loopholes that many states in the South used was charging a poll tax. That when you went to vote, you had to pay a certain fee in order to vote. And that prevented a lot of enslaved people and also people in poverty from voting. And they didn't get to then have a say in the government. And so the 24th Amendment makes that practice illegal. You can no longer charge a tax in order to vote. It's something that has to be free for all people. Amendment 25 happens after John F. Kennedy is assassinated. And so when John F. Kennedy was assassinated, it opened up people's eyes to the possibility that a president might become disabled but not actually die. And so in the 25th Amendment, they make an explanation of what would happen if the president was too disabled to complete his duties but hadn't actually passed. In the 26th Amendment, 18-year-olds got the right to vote. Previously, it had been older than that. And then in the 27th Amendment, this is the last amendment in the 1990s, they say that Congress cannot vote to give itself a pay raise. They can only vote to raise the pay of a future Congress that can't take effect until the following term, where they may be elected or not. And so the 27th Amendment prevents Congress from voting itself to get more money. All right, hope you practice those so that you know them for your test.